What is the U.S. Army training for here? What's the scenario that they're training for?
Well, there are a couple, but the primary one, certainly in Hawaii, was a potential conflict across an archipelago in the Indo-Pacific. You can imagine who the combatants might be in something like that. But so they're really looking at trying to integrate new technologies into the traditional U.S. Army operations.
Why is it so difficult?
Well, I mean, there are a variety of reasons. One is the challenge of electronic warfare and the ability of a high-end enemy to detect even complex U.S. Army or other joint force systems. So, there's this sense that if you can be seen, you can be hit. And so they're trying to figure out how best to conceal and to really combat that type of technology from an enemy force.
Is the subtext here potential conflict with China?
Absolutely.
So what does China have that the U.S. needs to be prepared for when it comes to this type of weapons system?
Well, there are, a variety of risk factors that they're looking to plan for. One is the potential for swarms of drones. The conflict in Ukraine is something of an instructive example. Russia has used tremendous numbers of drones, and the thinking is that in a potential conflict against China, you could see even more sizable, even more capable swarms of drones that could be attacking U.S. equipment, positions, and they need to be able to contend with that, both to defeat enemy drones and to fly their own.
I feel like the new, I don't know, gold or the new thing of value that really matters in this world is power. And you write about it, Courtney, it's a chief warrant officer who says power is the new weapon system on the battlefield. It will win and decide wars. I think whoever can generate power consistently more often is going to win. You can have a drone, but if you can't recharge it, so what, right? That's what it's going to come down to. And if you think about wars, if you take out somebody's power infrastructure, that has always been certainly something you do anyway. But really, if we're talking about drone warfare, that is how you can really take down a nation.
Absolutely, and it's not just the drones. I mean, that is a considerable part of it, but it's also the operations centers, the mobile ability for units to monitor, for commanders to monitor where their forces are, where the enemy is. All of that requires power, and sometimes a tremendous amount of it on the move.
What's the private sector look like in terms of suppliers to the U.S.? Where are those drones coming from?
All over. One of the things that the Department of Defense is trying to do is to open its pretty hidebound acquisition process to a greater variety of companies, and to accept a lot of different offerings. So Silicon Valley is certainly coming to play, but one of the challenges, as you stated, is power, and so all of those drone offerings still are somewhat contingent on having the ability to power them.
It's also like
charge them in the field.
The ability, you think about go way back, sending out scouts, right, who were individuals to figure out where the enemy was. I mean, now you just have, everybody has the ability, or increasingly more and more countries will have the ability to just send out a drone to figure out where you are, right? I mean, you just think about the surveillance capabilities already that are probably out there, but just increasingly being used.
Absolutely, and it's also changing some of the job descriptions for U.S. soldiers. So you'd see people who were traditionally dismounted infantry scouts who would go out on foot and try to determine the enemy's position, and now they are operating drones to do that. And so those drones can cover more ground faster, but it's requiring a real rethinking of how units operate and how soldiers are best deployed.
But also less of a risk for those soldiers getting hurt or killed in the line of duty.
Yes, absolutely.
So it raises the question about what the future of warfare actually looks like. And we only have a couple minutes left, so we don't have time to actually do that. But I mean, are we going to live in a world where we don't have soldiers necessarily out in the field? This is all done through drones. It's done through UAVs. It's done through new airplanes that can be flown with a pilot in them or remotely? Is that what it's going to happen? It's going to be done through cybersecurity?
So the thinking among senior leaders is that you're going to have a mix of these types of capabilities. So you may have a large fleet of drones that can go and reduce the risk to soldiers, on that initial wave. But you're still going to have manned platforms. You're still going to have heavy armor formations. You're still going to have manned aircraft. The Army's buying new helicopters, for instance. So it's not a complete abandonment of some of the traditional platforms or approaches to fighting, but the idea is to integrate a mix of new technologies alongside the traditionals.
Hey, Courtney, just 30 seconds. Can we assume those that have big military exposure, military folks and equipment, those will be the ones who will really be leading when it comes to drone warfare as well? Just quickly.
Yes, but I would not discount the newer entrants as well.